Security Halt podcast. Let's go.
You're dealing with an expert in guerrilla warfare. With a man who's the best. With guns, with knives, with his bare hands. A man who's been trained to ignore pain, ignore weather, to live off the land. His job was to dispose of enemy personnel. To kill. Period. Win by attrition.
Earl Plumlee, welcome, man. Thank you for being here today, dude.
Oh, pleasure, man.
It's awesome to have not only another Green Beret, but a former weapons sergeant, the most stepped on MOS in special operations.
I'm not a former weapons sergeant. You're always a weapons sergeant.
Right next to him, you can't see it on screen, but there's a weapons toolkit and a hammer ready to go.
Always. Yeah, this thing's not quite working right, but I'm hoping to get it going.
It's I think it's the greatest MOS. I'm a proud 18 Bravo turned warrant officer, and I thank God every day that I didn't get shuffled over to the 18 Echo pile.
I came in and was for sure I wanted to be a Delta.
Dude, same here.
Yeah. I think a lot of Bravos, I talked about half, were like, yeah, I wanted to be a Delta. And then I found out it was an extra year and a half of school. And I just wanted to get the course over with.
Yeah, no, for me, it was my math. It was the greatest moment in selection. I remember it vividly. And you make it, and the entire time you're always telling yourself, I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to make it. Then you fucking make it and you get brought in. And they're showing you all the things you did great at. And I just remember the guy looking at me. He's like, what MOS do you want to do? I was like, 18 Delta. He's like, you see that spot right there? That's your fucking math. You're an 18 Bravo. And I was like, I will be an 18 Bravo.
Let me do you a favor.
Son, you don't have what it takes in the math category. But I'm glad. I really enjoyed it.
I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying it's already really hard. Do you want to make it really, really hard?
Those bastards. Oh, man. Earl, welcome to Security Halt, man. Dude, you are... you are an icon now. You are the recipient of the Medal of Honor, and now you're part of our not only American history, our soft legacy. And I wanted to sit down with you and kind of dive into that, because we hear about the battle, we hear about the awards, but we don't talk about the transition. We don't talk about the aftermath and everything that goes with having, what arguably could be one of the most raw and intimate, painful moments of your life, highlighted every single day when you're, in the media blitz, and what happens on the backside of that. So I want to dive into your journey, man. But I want to start off with, dude, you started out in the National Guard and then the Marine Corps.
Well, yeah, it's the same, track. One of the reasons that I probably would not have made a good Delta is I got a little bit of the ADHD, man. So I'm not afraid to make bold course corrections depending on how I'm feeling.
Oh man, yeah. I can only imagine you were your team sergeant's a special 18 Bravo.
But yeah, I had a lot of fun everywhere I was at. And people always ask me, do you wish you'd come to SF sooner? And while that was the highlight of my career, there's no doubt the journey I took made me something that the regiment was interested in, because Private Plumlee in the Army National Guard was not anything that the SF regiment needed or wanted.
What did you think you went to the National Guard first? Because I think that's I'm a product of the Guard first as well, and it was college for me.
I was they were the only people that would take me while I was still in high school. So yep. I was that was going to be my path. I was going to join the military and do something. I had big designs on what I was supposed to do or going to do, and anyway, the only people that would let me get started while I was still in high school were the National Guard.
Nice, yeah, that's the easiest path in. And then after that, you decided to go Marine Corps.
Yeah, well, so the National Guard was neat, but I was looking for I wanted to be tested. I wanted to, I wanted to be, as a 19-year-old kid, and I wanted to walk into a room and people were like, what do you do? And then I was like, I want to be like, I'm a, fill in the blank, but I wanted that prestige and I wanted that respect of like, I have done something that's kind of harder. That comes with a little bit of, just respect from the average guy walking around because they wouldn't normally have chosen that path. So, and it's also the Marine Corps is it's a curse on your family. So my dad was a Marine, and I still have friends that I serve with. Their kids call me they call me and like, hey, talk to my kid. And there's if you were a Marine and you tell your child, hey, you should join the Marine Corps, they'll listen to you and they'll join the Marine Corps. And then if you tell them don't join the Marine Corps, they take it as a slight and insult. Like, well, the old man doesn't think I'm tough enough to be a Marine. I'll show him. And they do it anyway. And I'm no different. My dad was like, hey, don't join the Marine Corps. What you want to do is the Air Force or the Army. Pick what you want to do and then get after it there. And he doesn't think I can cut it.
I'll show you.
Show you. Yeah.
Yeah, but you didn't just choose to go to the Marine Corps. You chose to find like a very difficult path within the Marine Corps.
Yeah, I remember being extremely regretful about 4 years, every 4 years, my entire career. So,
very specific.
Yeah. Every 4 years, I did something just that really made my life much more difficult. So, I'm in the National Guard and I go to the Marine Corps and start over effectively. Yeah. And I don't stay in the field artillery. I go to the infantry. And, so I'm out there being wet for literally weeks on end, smelling like a cattle truck when I come back from the field. And I remember like, man, did I make the right choice? I know I wanted to be able to tell people, I have look at my little feather in my hat, but I'm really earning something out here. And then as soon as I kind of got accustomed to being in the infantry, I was like, well, this is too easy. And so I became a Force Reconnaissance Marine. And then, doing the same type of work, except for, swimming instead of riding in a Humvee to get to the training area, and, being covered in sores and having sand in every crack and crevice. I'm like, I'm not making any more money. And the only people that think I'm cool are the people that already I'm serving with, because nobody knew what a Force Reconnaissance Marine was. And I got my little gold bubble and gold wings, but nobody knows what that means except for other Marines. So it's like, is this truly what I'm supposed to be doing?
Nobody knows how great I am.
Yeah. Like, we need more movies.
I mean, that is, and it's arguably one of the hardest things you could do, being a Force Recon Marine. But you guys make the best friggin' teammates when you transfer over and become a Green Beret.
I don't know if that's what I always tell guys when Marines, like the thing about coming over. I was like, I don't know if you're a very good Marine, but you are going to be a phenomenal Green Beret. I promise.
It's true.
Because it's easier to get a guy to loosen up than to tighten up. And so your average Marine just comes with such a rigid personal discipline that getting him to, I know you want to shave this morning, but don't. It's one of those. It's easier to slow somebody down than speed them up.
Dude, so fucking true.
It does not require that you shine both sides of your boot. Just be on time.
Yeah, I had a former Marine Recon teammate, and I had to constantly tell him on deployment, stop shaving, grow out your beard.
I remember my first day in 4th Battalion. That's my first unit. I've been processed, and now it's the real. And I show up and I get a haircut because as a Marine, sometimes you got 2 haircuts a week depending on what was going on.
Yeah.
And you definitely got one Sunday night. Like, you didn't get a haircut on Friday and come to work on Monday. That's unheard of. So I got a haircut on like a Wednesday night to meet my sergeant major, and I instantly get my ass chewed. And it was Sergeant Major Tony Bell, and he's like, did you like being a Marine? And I'm like, well, I mean, yeah. And he's like, well, if you love it so much, I'll send you back. I have that power. I can make you a Marine again, or you can stop with the ridiculous haircuts. And and to me, that was culture shock, because I got a a medium reg or a low reg, like the bare minimum haircut in the Marine Corps, and he just hated it.
Get out of here with your standards.
Yeah. He's like, you're utterly useless to me. And I was like, I'm useless? He's like,
are you in parade rest right now?
yeah. He's like,
why are your hands in your pocket?
Like, if we got a mission today and I had to send you somewhere, everybody's going to look at that haircut and think that you're in the military. It's like, you're going to stick out everywhere for like a month. It's like, okay. It's like, from now on, you should be no more than 1 week away from having a bad haircut. And by bad haircut, I mean a good haircut. I was like, bad haircut. Yeah. So, I quit getting haircuts all the time.
Oh my God. That is, that is a different type of ass chewing.
Yeah. That's, I remember I would call my buddies in the Marine Corps. I was like, you'll never believe what just happened to me. What? I just got locked on for getting too many haircuts. Like, they want me to stop with the haircuts. So, I went from getting, at least one haircut, sometimes two, depending on what's going on, to, getting like one haircut a quarter or so.
Yeah. Dude, that is just...
yeah, it's a huge change.
And what drew you to go to first group?
So it's funny. I was just out at 10th group telling that story. So, I had my Green Berets who I knew, that I talked to. They ran training for us. And, I remember asking him, cause I was kind of thinking about it. I was like, which group's the best group? He's like, well, it's a flawed question, because whatever group you're in, if you don't think it's the best, because you're in it, you're probably not who we're looking for.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay. He's like, but here's the thing. If you truly want to be happy in the regiment, let your wife pick the group you go to. He's like, because she's the one that's going to have to live there, and you're going to be gone all the time. And that was the best advice. So my wife, she kind of settled on 10th group or first group is where she would like to live. And then after selection, they had every group had a pump up video.
Yeah.
To kind of lure you in. And 10th groups, they were snowshoeing with rucks, obviously on some kind of forced march. And I was like, And then they're, cross country skiing with rucks, and they had a 50 cal like on a sled with a bunch of ammo cans, and I was like, And then setting up a sniper hide site in a big snow cave, and I was like, this is not really working for me. And I remember the last thing,
cold.
The crescendo of the music is going, and it's a bottom up view of a combat diver coming up to an ice sheet, and he's cutting a hole in the ice and he's popping out of this little hole. And I was like, 10th group is man. Like, so I wrote down first group 3 times on my little dream list. And I went all or nothing on first group, because I was not interested in anything that 10th group had on display.
Yeah. No. Just went too heavy with the cold stuff.
Yeah. I mean, the whole video was just them sucking in the cold. So, and it was fine. I mean, they got their right guys, because there were dudes that were pumped and were like, wrote down 10th group 10 times. So
yeah, that's a strange fucking group. Same with third group. You couldn't pay me enough to stay in Fayetteville and in North Carolina.
So, my original plan was, being a Green Beret was my safety school. And, I had aspirations of going to a tier 1 unit.
Yeah.
And my wife was like, how important is that to you? Because honestly, I don't know if I can live here.
Maybe we could move the Southern Pines.
I was like, hey, put a pin in that. We'll cross that bridge if we have to. But I was like, now I have to pass another selection, and I got to figure out how to trick my wife into coming back to Fort Bragg.
Yeah. Dude, you nailed it, man. Like, being able to give your wife a big say in that whole process is huge.
No, that's something I got wrong. I got married and divorced in the Marine Corps, and one of the big hurdles we had in our marriage was that she had a terrible perception of the Marine Corps. And I realized I didn't involve her in my career really.
Yeah.
It was always, and then also, I came home pissed off about stuff, and I just would let her have that.
Yeah.
So for her, she didn't know what was going on, and everything sucked because that's what I was kind of telling her. And so when we came into the Army, my wife and I made a huge culture shift in our household that every time I had to be out of the house, I would explain to her why it was important that I be doing it. And maybe she didn't agree that it was important, but at least she understood that it was important to somebody, and that my time was of value.
Yeah.
And I will say that's something that we never had to kind of deal with in our house, was everything the SF regiment had me do. It seemed valuable on its face. So my wife understood that there was a challenging mission somewhere, and then I was the guy that was going to have to do it. And that helped, I think.
Yeah. Where do you think that came from? Because that's something that not a lot of us ever tap into.
Well, I just remember my first wife and I arguing because I loved being a force reconnaissance Marine, and then she was like trying to get me to get out, and she was trying to convince me that I hated it. And I was like, "Why? I love this." And it's like, you don't hate. And she had like a little diary. This is everything you said for the past month, and it was like, oh well. I mean, I could see how you would think I hate this job if you just had to go off of what I'm telling you.
I fucking hate it here.
Yeah. So, yeah, you bitch about it constantly. How could you possibly love it?
That's something that we all do, though. Like, they never hear the actual truth of like the good things, because you never talk about the good things. Only
and then also a lot of the good things. It's so hard to define, and it's that leap from being a normal citizen to kind of joining the warrior culture. It's hard to explain the things that you're valuing in your service to somebody that's just not a part of it, and honestly, just not going to get it.
Yeah, that's absolutely like solid truth right there. It's so hard to explain that team room environment to somebody that's never seen or been in it.
And then she didn't get the guilt either.
Ooh, yeah.
Leave because not the organization. I was very pragmatic with my understanding that, like, if I step on any tank mine and disappear into a funny smell, like, the Marine Corps is still going to be successful, But the small differences, like, I can be there and go first, so that a younger guy who's not maybe pumped about being the one man can be the four man until he gets his wheels under him. And being that guy that's like, I've seen this before. We're not going through that window. Come back, and not just being successful on the battlefield, but saving a guy's life and at least giving him the tools to survive without you. So I always had that guilt where, I got one more mission to get the guys how they need to be.
I got one more trip in me. I can do one more.
And honestly, my having just left. If the war hadn't ended, if Afghanistan hadn't folded, I don't really know how I would have exited the military, because it still would have been a huge hurdle.
Yeah.
And even with all this talk of China and Iran, I'm like, wow, maybe did I make the right choice?
Maybe I got one more in me. It's worse than Lethal Weapon.
I hit the Secretary of the Army up. I was like, ma'am, okay, let's just say this goes down. What are my options? And she's like, well, Earl, it's like, you didn't retire. You were medically separated. So like, your options, there's going to be things for you to do for the country, but wearing a uniform and walking point, those, like, unless you're patrolling in Detroit, because that's how much of the country the Chinese have, like, it's not really likely that you're going to get to serve.
So you're saying there's a chance. Dude, that's you just brought up something that so many of our soft professionals are dealing with right now. We are experiencing a huge exodus because Afghanistan's over, and I even saw it in the team room before I left. The young guys coming in were completely devastated that a war was over.
Yeah, that's one of those unique things, that I try to explain. They're like, if you actually want to go to war, and for one, you can argue that it is or it is not. But in the military culture, going to war is a rite of passage.
Yes.
And there are harder things to do than go to combat. Ranger school, dive school, all these schools that are develop you are incredibly difficult, and most elite training that I attended was harder than war. But if you're walking around with your combat action ribbon in the Marine Corps, or you got your your combat deployment patch for the Army, there's some prestige with that, and guys seek it and want it, and you can't explain that to anybody. And the closest thing I tell them is, nobody wants to be a firefighter in a town that doesn't have fires.
Nobody wants to play Thursday night football. Everybody wants to be on varsity.
Right.
And it was hard to speak to young men that joined in,
20-year-old men,
that went through all of this fucking journey to become a Green Beret, to show up to that team room. And it's like, hey, you got to get excited for JSETs. You got to get excited for FIDs. Like, your war could be coming.
Yeah.
Your war is still, in developing stages. Don't get excited. Don't get, downhearted and beat down because Afghanistan is over. Be excited about mastering your skill sets. Be excited about being a master of your domain. And if war comes down to it, you're going to be ready for it.
You're ready. And that's the last thing you want to do, is to be all mopey about.
Yep.
And then not giving your all to training, because you can't feel that way and take training seriously. Because if you're sold on the fact that, like, oh, I missed everything, and you get your Eeyore tail on, at some point in time, the peacetime training that you do will be the last training you do before you're on the battlefield.
Yep.
And most of the PTSD that I've really seen in my peers is guys that had preventable deaths on the battlefield. If it's just one of those things where we're in the fight and somebody has to die, you can kind of understand that. The enemy gets a vote. But if it's something that was preventable, and God help you if it's your negligence or malaise that gets a guy killed, that's just absolutely crippling. And that's, I warn those young NCOs out there now, carrying that banner is, sooner or later, the last thing you're going to do before you're on the battlefield is that, pain in the ass JRTC or NTC rotation.
Yeah.
And if you're out there eating sunflower seeds, calling up fake pause reps, because the training's lame, in 60 days, you could literally be in the fight of your life. So, like, how do you want to invest that time?
Yeah.
And that was, I was a pre 9/11 guy, and I was all, there's nothing going on, and all I do is mop. And I had an old platoon sergeant, staff sergeant minor, and he's like, if all you want to do is get shot at, he's like, you just keep on signing papers around here, because you will get shot at if you stay here long enough. And he was right, because, like, he told me that, and I think 3 or 4 months later, 9/11 had occurred, and it was going down.
Yeah. That's, you cannot put it in better words. Mentorship and coaching young warfighters has to be about reminding them the importance of being prepared and doing your job. That's just it. Yeah. You're going to get called at some point. You're going to get called up. And
statistically speaking, your chances of getting called are higher than not.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, especially if we keep voting for these people in the current administration.
Yeah.
It's coming. Just have patience and keep training.
The water is boiling. I know it was just lukewarm when we got in, but it's steaming.
It's cooking.
Now. Yeah.
The world is on fire. And it is hard to sit back and understand that, hey, your time in combat, your time as a leader in the military is over. And how do you move over into that next phase of your life? How do you transition effectively from being the guy that's at the tip of the spear to being the guy that now focuses on home, focuses on mentoring and coaching other young adults, other men outside of the military? Like, that's the tricky part.
No, so I still find value in my time. I love supporting, but the two things I can speak intelligently about. If you want to join the Coast Guard, sure, but I can't. I don't know if that's cool or not. But I love talking to people yeah. I love talking to people that are thinking about a career in the military.
Yeah.
And offering advice. I truly did love everywhere. I think I was at the right place at the right time my entire career. Driving tanks on the weekend in high school. My first sergeant wanted to kill me, but I wasn't getting DUIs. I was getting tanks stuck in the mud, but that to me everything was a big adventure.
Yeah.
And then as a young man, being in the infantry molded me into being a confident leader on the battlefield. I never served in combat per se as a infantryman, but it put the foundation there for me to be successful in the other organizations that I was in. And then just the value of my service. I was always proud to be an American, but in the cocky kind of way that a young man is.
Yeah.
Why do you love the Dallas Cowboys? Well, I'm from Dallas. Well, that's cool. But for me, I truly started to love the country through my service. And so, I became one of those guys when they sing the Star Spangled Banner in a football game, I tear up every time now.
Yeah. It definitely, serving your nation in uniform changes everything. Like I wasn't born here, and that is something that changed like my ability to serve in, historically important units like the 82nd. That was huge for me. Like when I am able to say like I served in one of the most historical military units as a paratrooper, not being born in this country, I'm like, fuck yeah. Like I got to wear those fucking double aces on my sleeves, deploy with that unit. Like that, I'm so connected to like our lineage now, not because of a father or a grandfather, but just being able to serve in that unit and then serving as a Green Beret. And I'm like, fuck, dude, like it's the most American fucking thing you can do. And I got to experience that. Now I get to leave that as a legacy for my kids if they choose to serve. But it does connect you to this country, and it makes you extremely appreciative for what we have here. And it makes you not the toxic patriot.
Yeah, not just for you, but for your family. Because how many times have you met somebody and they ask, "Oh, you were in the 82nd?" And they're like, "Oh, my great grandfather was in the 82nd." Like,
exactly.
Cool, I guess, but it means something to those families for forever.
Yeah, it's funny how more people recognize and understand that through the lens of World War II than they ever will. Just like, oh, you're special operations or you're Green Beret. Well, it's the same thing as a Navy SEAL. It's like, no, it's not the same fucking thing.
Yeah. We can't afford cocaine. We have to do it.
It's different. We don't get the book deals or the movies.
Yeah.
Oh.
I think I think that's a unique thing about the SF regiment is profound patriots. That as a Green Beret, you hardly ever wear it. Maybe your wife knows you're a Green Beret. And like you said, nobody else even knows what it is. Is that like a Navy SEAL? And you're like, no, it's totally different in ways that I can't explain to you because you're not military. I think it's a unique person that wants to do that job. And your biggest win as a Green Beret is getting the job done by talking somebody else into doing it. Which also is unique is, the mission gets done. Even if you were there and were a key player, your job is to give all the credit to someone else. And that takes a special type of person.
Calling all golf enthusiasts. Get ready to tee off for a great cause at the inaugural Krulak Classic Charity Golf Tournament on Wednesday, September 11th at the historic Greystone Country Club, located in beautiful Birmingham, Alabama. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just looking for a fun day on the green, this is your chance to make a difference. Enjoy a day of friendly competition, delicious food, and fantastic prizes, all while supporting the Krulak Marine Alliance of Alabama. Don't miss out on this perfect blend of sport and philanthropy. Register now at krulakclassic.org. That's KRULAK classic.org. and swing into action for a cause that truly matters. See you on the course.
It does, absolutely. It's not about chest beating and taking ownership of the wins.
Yeah.
It's constantly being given over to your partner force, and in your reporting and in everything that gets sent out and published.
Yeah. I think we do our job too good. I have a theory that a lot of our DoD and civilian leaders, a lot of their misconceptions about the success of the Afghan Iraqi army was, when you really looked at it, like, yeah, on paper, 99.99% of this operation was, that host nation military, but it only takes a few green berets on the ground to like put the morale through the roof. That's a guy that will walk point. That's a guy that will be the number one man on the breach. And even if the ratio is like one Green Beret for every 250 Afghans, they act different when we're there. And,
they do.
And as soon as you take, like, as far as like having one more rifle, the guy doesn't influence the battlefield that much. But he's got an American flag on his arm, and it does something to a unit when we're there. And I really think that a lot of the misconceptions are like, oh, they're doing good. They're doing good when there is at least a American there. They're doing great. Look over here, these places that are getting just absolutely destroyed or just leaving in the middle of the night before the battle, no American presence whatsoever. And it does something to those units.
It's absolutely true, man. Very few, specifically in Afghanistan, like the KKA mission, like dudes were proficient. They were hitters in every form and definition of that slang term. They wanted to fight. Go to some other commando units, and Wahid did not want to step out and go on a mission without a Green Beret with him.
Yeah, totally different.
Yeah. When you reflect back on your time in combat, and I want to reflect back to something that you mentioned about that senior leader type of persona as a Green Beret, always willing to stay a little extra, give a little bit more to the new guys so that they could be prepared, so they could be ready. When we look at that behavior, that type of leader, when you were in Afghanistan, like specifically on that day, like what was Earl thinking about as this? Like, did you think this is going to be your last trip? Were you planning with like, hey, I am done after this. I have done everything I can to mentor and take care of these dudes. And I'm like, this is going to be my last one.
I have never felt like it was my last one. In 2013, it was supposed to be that we were winning. Everybody was leaving. We're closing everything. And I felt some pressure. Like we have to, go fast because we're leaving here. But I've never truly felt like it was my last one. And I think I kind of got inured to it because, the 20 years. So the majority of my career, we were at war. I just thought it was going to last forever, to be honest with you. The point I was down to always go one more time. Very sobering thing for me is I ended up having a peer of mine. His son worked for me.
No shit.
And so he's a Green Beret. It's not like I had some 18-year-old kid. This kid has served elsewhere, went through the Q course. He's a man. And and I'm like looking at my son. I'm like, is my son going to have to take over this war for me before? Like, I want to hand down, like a Camaro to my son. I don't want to hand down a conflict in the Middle East.
Yeah. Signing it.
Yeah.
Signing property over to your kid.
Right.
Which has happened. We have had numerous Green Berets serve with their kids that were now Green Berets.
Yeah. My son said he wanted to be on a free fall team and jump with daddy. And it just absolutely crushed his mother. She had a panic attack. And I was like, man, calm down. I wanted to be a freaking astronaut or a dinosaur when I was 9. So we've got time for him to grow out of this. Do not have a panic attack yet.
Earl, you can't be a dinosaur. You just can't.
So I was like, but I'll tell you what, if you come after him and tell him he can't do that, you're guaranteeing that that's where you're gonna fulfill that prophecy. Just
No.
nod and smile, babe.
Just shake your head. It'll happen for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. Having that and seeing it, not just in the soft community, but in the conventional, like I would see my friends drive to Benning to pin their kids' wings on them and then deploy. Like that's insane.
Yeah. And when I see these people serving with their children, I'm like, what a nightmare scenario. Because guys that work for me, I'll assume my fair share of the risk, and I'll be like, all right, take point, knowing that there's a good chance that he could get killed. I don't know that I could do that with my son.
Yeah.
And so it would be a weird, like, why am I always in the back? I'm like, because
protective bubble. Yeah, it's a weird thing. War that never seems to end. Like, especially when you redeploy the same areas. Like, a lot of us have fond memories of going back to the same AO, going back to the same areas, and it's so weird.
Al Assad being in the news right now it's literally giving me chills, because I'm like,
2 years there.
And I smoked a cigar right there. I know exactly where that is.
Yeah.
It's part of I think that, when you look at the history of our country, that's our thing, man. The Middle East and us always seem to be tangled up. People blame it on oil, but it's profoundly deeper than that.
Yes.
And it the shores of Tripoli, literally we were there, fighting to stop the slavery of U.S. citizens on the high seas. Like, so the Middle East has always just been off as far as foreign policy meet up with us. So I really, you look at the founding fathers, Thomas Jefferson, avoid that area at all costs. Those people, we can't deal with them.
No.
And every time we go over there and try and mesh our two civilizations, it always ends up into armed conflict, because they're just so profoundly different.
Yeah. And we keep propping different governments up and sending so much money, resources, and our own men and women.
And that's why I try to explain to people back here, like, nothing we do good in that region is ever perceived as good. We are the boogeyman, we are the bad guys. And they're like, because of the government? I'm like, no, because of you. You are the problem, U.S. citizen. You teach your women how to read. It's illegal to beat them. Like that. These are foreign concepts in most of the Middle East. And they, everything we do is just ghastly to them. And so when you try and blend those civilizations, it's going to always create some friction that's going to break out into violence.
Yeah. Whenever I try to explain,
South Americans and North Americans arguing about if peppercorn or a jalapeno is an actual spice. We're talking about like how you treat your fellow man. And in the West, we have a different manner of looking at it. There's slave markets in Libya. If we went and
right now,
we would be the bad guys. The cocky Americans coming in here and tell us how to live. I'm like, well, you're selling. The Quran says it's okay. I'm like, are you sure?
How dare you impose your rules on us?
What's up, bootlicker? I'm like, I just think selling people is bad. I don't know. What do you?
You piece of shit. Get out of here. You're a white man in America. You have no say.
Because they're. I remember I always talk to my commandos at night, my Afghan commandos, because I wanted them to like me so that they didn't
kill you.
Sit up reading the Quran all night and then come throw hand grenades at me while I was asleep. Like, I was going to kill an infidel, but Earl seems like a nice guy.
It's like scene in Billy Madison, just scratching out all your teammates' name.
Yeah, we actually, but just the stuff I would tell them naively, they would just be like, but they're like, how do you get food into your house while you're deployed? Like, my wife goes to the store, and like the thought that my wife can drive and that she goes to
Yeah.
the store by herself, I might as well have told them that she's a prostitute getting food, because it was just so obscene to them that she's out of the house by herself and that she drives.
Yeah.
And I told them that my wife has a gun. They're like, "Well, don't you worry about like criminals?" I was like, I mean, I think about it, but my wife has a gun. If there's criminals, she'll shoot them. And like, your wife has a gun and she goes outside the house. What are you gay? Is this a dude?
Yeah, dude. It's so weird. It's such a weird culture. I remember the most the most ridiculous thing.
It's not
is
weird. It's different. It's a beautiful, ancient culture.
fuck that, Earl. This is my show, and it's fucking weird. I remember one of the greatest things. One of our interpreters is like, "I want to show you pictures from my wedding." I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely. You just left, had your wedding," and he shows us pictures, and it's all just pictures of him. It's just pictures of him, like glamour shots, and I'm like, nice.
And she's in a Burke. They still won't take her picture because it would be haram.
Yeah. It's an acquired taste. If it's for you, it's for you. If not, it's
there's things I think that they nail. And then some of the stuff is just, big, huge miss.
Yeah. Yeah. There's man, say what you will about, Western ways, but I think we're doing okay.
Yeah. I think we get, too far ahead of the horse every now and then, but, people ask me like they really, especially civilians, like really dig into like what motivated me. And I was like, if you've ever been exposed to radical Islam and you have children, like you can't help but want to pick up a rifle. I want it. I was very willing to die in some ridge in Afghanistan if that's as far as they got.
Yeah.
And I would fully rather keep our foreign policy where you fight, 5,000 to 10,000 miles away from the country rather than ever have those people anywhere near my neighborhood.
Yeah. Dude, completely agree. Like that's something I think every one of us within our soft community feels the same way. They keep everything away from home. Like, but it feels like more and more it's being brought in. Like ideologies are dangerous and we keep funneling.
Yeah, if we had to pick, like, hey, quit looking for cocaine and let's start talking about does this person truly believe in the American system of governance, or are they coming here to start something new? Yep. We don't need something new. I tell people this, it's kind of as a joke, but every suicide bomber, not suicide bomber, every IED, because suicide bombers, they don't have a long-term plan, but IED and placers, it was always a stopgap job for them until they could get to the United States. And then they were going to be a truck driver or what was the other big job they always want? Truck driver or something else. And I was like, don't you think that having your fingerprints, once you touch the bomb, like,
yeah,
we know who you are. And if you kill an American, you go on a list where we never let you live in the country. And they're like, what? Why?
Come on.
We're just weird about that. We don't like it when you kill us, so we don't want you living in our country. It's weird to me that that's your two.
Yeah.
Either most people are like, I'm going to chase this music dream, but if it doesn't catch on, I'm going to stay in med school. That's weird for me. If you're like, you want to be an insurgent and fight the U.S. government and possibly die, or be a hardworking, tax-paying citizen of the U.S. government. Like that's two weird paths, in my opinion.
Yeah, or come here and try to change things to make it like the place you fled from. Makes no sense to me.
Yeah, crazy to me. And the fact that we have to have the discussion about having because the Islamic faith, the first thing they do is you get 20 or 30 of them living on the same neighborhood, and they want a semi-autonomous zone, and they want some form. They have HOAs that institute Sharia law, and to me, the Sharia law should be outlawed in this country. If you like it counters the Constitution of the United States at almost every turn. So anytime
Absolutely.
somebody tells me they want Sharia law inside the United States, get them out of the country immediately and put
Yeah.
them on a list. They can't ever come back.
Yeah.
And it drives me crazy arguing with different facets of the political spectrum where they're like, well, why can't they have it? Like, you realize under Sharia law, if a woman gets raped, she can't press charges. She needs 5 credible male witnesses.
Yeah.
To me, that seems like a really terrible legal system.
And it's taken hold of areas within the United States already.
I mean, it's here. And no society really meshes with Islam. You either become Islamic or you drive them out. They don't mesh with your society. There is no middle ground with Islam.
There's no integration. It's takeover.
Yeah. So for me, I'm always confounded by it because I'm like, I guess I could quit drinking and I could be a Muslim. But if you're gay and you're pro drug use and you think women should walk around naked and men should mind their manners, I don't understand how you're friends with anybody that bears the flag of Islam, because you are literally a useful idiot, and you'll never see it because they move slowly. But you're dooming your children to servitude or death because that's where they move in.
You're the useful idiot. And
when you walk around Afghanistan, it's very profound that was the predominant religion of Afghanistan was Hindu. It's been completely erased from their history, and they're gone,
wiped clean, the statues, everything removed.
Yeah, and I'm like, they're showing, they're not even lying to you. They're telling you what they're going to do. So countless times you hear these people talking. They're coming to this country to build a foothold, and their dream and their inspiration for living in our country is to erase our form of governance and put up a flag of Islam. That's their plan. And if that doesn't scare you, it should.
Yeah. But Earl, you're a colonizer and you're a white male, and how dare you?
Well, I think people that get caught up in the white male colonizer, I'm like, tell me you skipped history class without telling me you skipped history class.
Exactly.
The predominant societies for 3,000 years of recorded history are India and China. Like, European powers, we got like 300 years of dominance, and we're supposed to feel bad about it.
Yeah.
Give me a break.
Yeah. They do research on slave trade. It'll blow your mind.
And arguably, the doomsayers and naysayers will say our time was fleeting and is fading now. So, sure, but there's nothing that aggravates me more than people complaining about the past instead of working on the future.
Oh my God! Yes, thank you. It's just it seems like every other day there's a new faction that's calling for someone to get canceled from the history books. It's fuck, dude.
And I'm, for me, I'm like, the whole point of this country is that we're supposed to do right. I'm not saying you should, forget, but forgive. My family fought for the South. That's not my view.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the most just wars that the country's ever been involved in. Like, slavery is an insidious evil. So I don't know why I'm punished for my forefathers' bad decisions. I don't believe in it. If somebody tried to enslave you, I'd kill them. If the U.S. government would let me, I'd go fight in Libya to close a slave market. But it's not good for our foreign image and foreign engagement to eliminate slavery in all cases. Sometimes it's good, apparently.
Yeah.
So
in certain places,
like, I'm willing to go die right now to stop slavery. I don't know why I have to hear it from you about how I'm a bad person.
Yeah, it's crazy times, man. And I got to ask you, transitioning from the military into this new woke culture and woke environment, what was that like?
It's weird because I'm used to telling the truth, and it seems like American culture is embracing this unique public image of, I know that everything I'm saying is bullshit, but I'm going to say it anyway. And as long as you are willing to spout nonsense, you're a good person. And if you stand up and speak any kind of truth or fact, you're a bad guy. And the Greek philosophers that kind of lit the spark for Western civilization just must be absolutely rolling in their graves.
Yeah.
At a time, a concept would get rolled out and we'd roll it around and figure out what its pros and cons were. And now we can't even talk about it.
There's no civil discourse. There's absolutely zero. It's immediately attack you for being a misogynist, being a racist, being somebody that it's attacking a poor minority sector.
Right.
Like having a discussion right now, like it's dangerous.
And if I am, explain it to me other than I'm a bad person, because
yes,
pretty sure I'm not. So if you can't explain it to me, I have no use for your argument, because I can explain the rational reasoning behind everything that I choose to do inside and outside of my house. And I feel like a lot of people are just weak and it's peer pressure. Like, I feel like this because I don't want people looking at me funny on my street. And I'm like, wow, cool. Neat.
Yeah.
What other rules will you follow so people won't be mean to you?
Dude, it's frustrating. Frustrating seeing people that you can tell that they want to go against this narrative, to speak their truth, but they're so scared. Like, it's ridiculous.
Nothing irks me more than like, well, I can't say what I'm thinking. I'm like, in this country, you can. If more people would, I think we would probably be better off as a country. But when you have a huge, drastically outweighted minority that's just willing to like berate anything that conflicts with their view, and it's on the left and the right, you get the whole middle just tiptoeing around both of them. And I think that is something we could do for a change.
Yeah, we need more individuals that are willing to actually speak the truth and run for office in local community and in broader government office. Like, we've
and then go back and do what they were doing.
What's that?
Serve the country in public office and then go do something else.
Yeah. Don't stay there forever.
Yeah, don't stay there. I don't. Of all the problems we're having in this country, in Congress and the Senate, we have the least amount of veterans. We have the oldest Congress and Senate in the history of the country. And if you're going to explain to me that that's not two big problems, I really challenge you to that.
Yeah. What about you? Any aspirations for running for office? We're seeing a surge in Green Berets that are running for office.
No, I love, I got a couple of them down here. Love those guys. I just don't think, I don't think I got it in me, and my family definitely doesn't.
Yeah.
If I had done less time, maybe. But I think we're done serving the country for my generation. I'll leave that to my kids.
It's our turn to do something, damn it.
Yeah.
So what do you do now these days?
So I work for Saab, which is nice. I still get to touch all the tactical units. They keep me out there with the places I serve. So it's, I'm slowly transitioning to being a civilian.
You're still in the team room. You're literally in the team room.
Literally, I just got back from 10th group. And
nice.
Was out at their Cephalic and talking to their command teams about problems that they're having, and so I'm still in the mix. I get enough of it to kind of scratch that itch for me, and not so much that my wife knows I'm cheating on her with the regiment still.
The regiment's a side chick now.
Yeah. Remember I forget who wrote it, but there's describing the SF regiment as a mistress. Yeah. So like I see her on weekends from time to time.
Yeah. Well, you're one of the few that gets to continue that love affair. That bitch ran out on me a while back, but
well,
she still sends me some nudes.
There's a 100% chance that there's a place for you to get back involved.
Oh man, or I can't thank you enough for being here, man.
And, she's like, well, we could do 6 months in the Philippines together. Shh, stop it. My wife will hear you.
She reads my texts. Oh man, dude, thank you for jumping on today, man. It's been a pleasure. Again, Earl Plumlee. If folks want to get in touch with you, do you have a LinkedIn or social media presence?
I have an Instagram. And while we're here, yeah, I have an Instagram. Hit me up. I love doing engagements. I love speaking about my service. I also, it's the one with the blue check. I do not need your money. The U.S. government gives me hundreds of dollars for my service. So if somebody's asking for money through social media, it is not me. So,
Fuck. Hold up 1 second. Oh shit. Too late.
But yeah, I have an Instagram. It's Earl Plumlee Official. If you want to hear about my service, I got guys hit me up there constantly and asking all the questions that people want to know before they go put a uniform on.
Yeah. And that's one of the most beautiful things about this chapter in our lives, being sort of like a mentor to countless individuals that reach out and want to know, like, hey, what's SF like? What's being a Green Beret like? And that's something that's awesome. And I think it actually does a lot more for recruitment than we think. If you're another...
Every time you really talk to a population of young Americans, their Genesis story is usually one person that they really understood or bonded with, that encouraged them to serve. And when you look at how people that come from these dynastic families pick jobs, they were told to do it by a mentor in some fashion, whether it be a family member or some guy they met.
Yeah.
And I think it's a huge portion of how our recruitment's done.
Absolutely. So you heard it, folks. Slide into Earl's DMs, ask those weird and strange questions, and he'll get back to you. Or hit us up at secopodcast@gmail.com. Or right now in this episode, you can actually text us. So if you're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, you can go right there to the episode description, send us a text, tell us what you think about the episode, what you think about Earl, and if you'd like to have him back on the show. Earl, thank you again, man. I can't wait to have you back on to talk about some more spicy topics.
Yeah, pleasure, man.
let's do it before and after the elections, because I really want to know your take.
We got a very exciting election coming up, so
it's gonna be spicy. I'm Team Kamala. Oh
yeah,
no!
All right.
Fuck no. To everybody listening, thank you for tuning in. We'll see you all next time. Till then, take care. If you like what we're doing and you're enjoying the show, don't forget to share us, like us, subscribe, and remember, we get through this together. Take care.